going on, guys? Oxford here, and in this Path of Exile 2 video, I'd like to go over some beginner tips that I've learned along the way while I've been live streaming Path of Exile 2 early access. So let's go over this. First of all, just remember this is early access, which is going to be 6 months to 12 months long. Lots of changes and updates will be happening during this phase. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is the following. It's called the Gateway. And if you don't know what that is, especially if you're new to ARPGs or new to Path of Exile, for instance, your gateway is basically the server location or the latency of which you're going to play your game. And the reason I talk about this, because a lot of folks I've noticed, especially gamepad players on PC or console, if you select the wrong gateway or if you leave it on auto select, you're going to have like input delay, like pretty bad, especially with the left analog stick. It's pretty noticeable. So when you get here first, my humble opinion, I would not select auto select gateway. I think it's on by default. Select the one that's going to have the best milliseconds or the MS that you see on screen, the ping. Make sure you select that one. I am actually in the state of Texas, so I'm going to select Texas, but just be sure that you get that before you start into the game or you're going to see some latency, okay? One thing that I do want to talk about is options. I know this gets skipped quite a bit because we're happy and eager and excited to get into the game, and we completely negate or don't even look at the options area. I want to actually talk about this. I don't know what it is on console versions because I am on the PC version, but I do want to talk about a couple things that I think are disabled by default, and you probably should have it enabled, but it's just subjective. You can do whatever you'd like, obviously. Now, if you look at the top of the screen, you're going to see a tab called Interface. And I don't know if this is on by default or not, but you want to make sure that you have Enable Quest Tracking enabled. You can have the clock on as well if you want to have that or not. Not a big deal, but it's nice to have the time off to the right. It is a 2400 or 24-hour clock on the right side. Here you can actually center your user interface. I am on an ultra wide display, so I like to have the user interface centered, but I don't know if that's for other screens or if it's just for ultra wide, okay? Here you have on the gamepad mode, you can show co-op players labels if you want that. You can also do the HUD mode, central, left, right. So if I hit left, it'll have everything to the left, obviously. And if I go right, it's going to go all the way over to the right that looks just like that. So it's kind of a cleaner look. And then you have central here, kind of your standard ARPG look there. You can even scale the HUD. You can go as small as like right here. You can even blow it up like just like this here. Completely up to you. Again, I don't know if that's on the console version. If you're watching this video, please drop a comment and let me know yes or no this is on the console version. Moving down to the map section, I don't know if this is on by default, but you have show corner map, which is the mini map on the top right corner. So when I enable to disable that, or enable and disable, you'll see it popping up on the right hand side. Then you have auto center map. You have landscape transparency and map transparency. What does that mean? So if you look on the top right corner, you can see that the map is going in and out on the terrain, and then you have map transparency that looks like that on the top right hand corner. You also have map zoom. You can go all the way in like that, or you can pull it all the way out. I like to have mine out so you can kind of see everything. One area here that I want to talk about is called items in the options, where it says always show sockets and then show full descriptions, hide remove only tabs in your stash tab, and then support gem utility pop-up. I would recommend that you have all these on for now, and if you feel like they could become annoying later on, just come in here and disable them. Another one here as well is I think these are off by default, is going into gameplay, you'll have show life and mana levels. If you look at the mana globe on the right hand side of your screen, I'll do the best I can in post to magnify and zoom in so you can see it better on the video. You'll see that there's a mana 64 of 64 right above the globe. If you disable that, you have no idea how much you have when it comes to your numbers. I personally like to see that number above there. Now, you can also highlight your mouse on the globe without this and see the number, but for me, I like to see the number. If you find it distracting, just disable it. Another one here too is I think this is disabled by default, which I find interesting, is showing your flask buffs and then also showing your aura icons. I, for one, like to see these things. I want to know what buffs are on me, and I also want to see the aura icon so that I know that it's actually on and enabled. It's more of a quality of life thing, but again, I think it's disabled by default. So come in here and check these on in case you want more information about your character as you're playing the game. Another one here as well is called Show Monster Resistance Icons. Again, I don't know if this is disabled or not, but I have this checked on, and what this does, it'll show the resistance icons at the top of the screen underneath the health bar or health gauge. You'll see exactly what they're resistance to. Now, once you log in, if you haven't created a character yet, you're going to go ahead and create a brand new character. And the one thing that I do want to talk about here are the class choices and how different it is compared to, let's say, Diablo 4. In Path of Exile 2, you will select your class, but just know that the class you choose does not mean that you're only going to be using certain skills. That's not how Path of Exile works. In POE2, you can use basically any skill that you want. You can do whatever you want. There's no cookie cutter builds like in other games, right? Instead, why even have a class? Like, what's going on here? Number one, it really depends on where you want to start on the big passive skill tree, which I'll go over later in this video. The big skill tree is actually shared amongst everyone, the whole build, your character, no matter what. It's one ginormous tree. And on that tree, they're divided up into quadrants. Okay, you have like the north quadrant, south, you get the point. And where you have your class at is where you're going to start on the tree. Certain areas of the tree will have different, attributes and things like that are tailored towards what you chose at the beginning. That's why it's important to do this, because then you'll know exactly where you're headed from the very beginning. Another reason why you want to carefully decide what class you're going to choose is because there's something in Path of Exile called Ascendancy, or you ascend to a higher version of yourself. Now, this is early access. I think we're on day 4 now, I believe, at the time of this recording. And right now you have 2 Ascendancy classes in early access. Eventually, we'll have 3 choices. What are the Ascendancy classes? If I remember to go into post and editing, I'll go ahead and put up like images and examples of what I'm referring to. I'll also drop some links as well to help you guys out for websites and things like that to educate you on Path of Exile 2. But what I typically do is I decide, okay, what Ascendancy class do I want to play? Not so much like the class, but what do I want to ascend to? And that's how I make my build, is the Ascendancy. You get what I'm saying? So I hope that makes sense. If you're trying to decide what do I want to play, it's not so much skills, it's Ascendancy. Okay, what benefits me in my play style? All right. So this is the character selection screen. So for this example, I'll just select the witch here, and if you don't know which one to go with, highlight each one, and whenever you select the class, there'll be a cool like video introduction about what each one does. Like the ranger, for instance, you'll have ranger here, then you have agility, long range, and then crowd control. They'll kind of give you some very brief descriptions and video examples of each one. So again, here's witch. You'll have minions and chaos magic, all this stuff. It's right here, okay? But just know that the skill gems that you get later in the game, you can do whatever you'd like. All right. So once you select your class, you are then going to select what they call a league, which is like kind of like in Diablo where they have seasons. Okay. After you create your name, so let's go ahead and call ourselves Waffle Queen, and we'll just hit play. Actually, the league options, if you're playing on gamepad, you'll hit this button here. That's going to show you standard and hardcore. All right. What are the differences between the two? All right. Hardcore are for players that want to get through the game without dying. Once you die, you basically go back over to softcore. All right. So basically it's permadeath, right? Now, do you lose everything? What happens is all your stuff goes over to standard. You're no longer a part of the hardcore league mechanic. If you press and hold R3, I don't know what it is on keyboard mouse, there'll be a short description on the far right side where it says solo self-found. This optional mode disables trading and party play for characters. You can convert it back to a regular season at any time, or it says that, yeah, any time if you'd like. And then hardcore says a character killed in hardcore becomes a standard character, so it's permadeath, things like that. So that's if you want to go that route. All right, so we're going to select standard league, which is the soft core. You'll see SC standard core, or you'll see HC for hardcore in case you see titles and videos and live streams. That's if you're brand new to Path of Exile, by the way. Just to show you guys an example of what I meant by Ascendancy classes, I went ahead and came over to the Path of Exile 2 website where they have all the Ascendancies up to this point in early access. Just one example here is when you select the Sorceress class, you're going to have Storm Weaver as one example of an Ascendancy. And this is what it looks like. And by the way, I do want to talk about this real quick. When you come to this website and you see the numbers here, how it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for beginners, you're not going to know what any of this means. I think as a beginner, when you see this, I'm willing to bet that you're thinking that you have to grab number 1 first, and then number 2 second, number 3 third, and so on and so forth. That's not what this means. In fact, I kind of wish they didn't put numbers on this for new players, because a new player will think they have to get this first, or this is the first point that you're going to get. No, this is simply like a legend. All it is. That's all it is. It's just labeling that, hey, number 1 means this, number 2 means this, and 3, you get what I'm saying? So these are just like identifiers as the definitions. Like as an example here, number 1 is called Scurrying Winds, and it says exposure you inflict lowers the affected resistance by an additional 20%, right? So that's what that number 1 means. It doesn't mean that you're going to get that first one. No. And the reason I labeled this section Ascendancy Warning is because once you choose your Ascendancy, you cannot refund these points to change your Ascendancy. So it's definitely a good habit of figuring out what you want to do beforehand. And another thing too, while I'm talking about this, when you ascend, you have to go through different trials, and each trial that you do or complete, you're granted just 2 points for each trial. There's going to be 3 types of trials. There's going to be the trial of Secumus, then there's the trial of Chaos, and then there's going to be a third trial that's unannounced. But in early access, we have the first 2 that I mentioned. Now, of those trials, there's going to be different tiers. In other words, different difficulties. So you have like your tier 1 difficulty, tier 2, all the way up to tier 4. All right. And the first tier you get, you're going to have to complete one or the other. You either complete Trial of Secumus or you complete Trial of Chaos. It's your choice. But when you're done with that, you'll get 2 points from there. And then you move up to tier 2 and you can decide from there, okay, do I want to do Trial of Secumus or another tiered version of Trial of Chaos, and eventually a third tier. So you'll be able to kind of mix and match per tier of which type of trial that you want to do for your 2 points. Now, if you're wondering how to ascend with the trial system in POE2, I will have a link to this website below. This is the wiki site for POE2, and it'll talk about the overview and how to ascend with the trials of Secumus and Trial of Chaos with ascensions 1, 2, 3, and 4. This website is interactable, meaning you can hover your mouse over each item. It'll give you the name and description just like in the game itself. So click on that link, come in here and check out what you need to do to ascend the first time, the second time, third, and the fourth time. You're going to get a maximum of 8 points. You're not going to end up getting all the points on this tree. Something very confusing for new players is they look at this going, oh great, I'm going to get all this stuff by the end of the game. No. You have to select very carefully up to 8 points. You're not going to get all 10. Keep that in mind when you make your decision. Does that make sense? I hope that's clear. What I want to talk about here is the user interface. Now, again, this is a beginner guide, so we're going to go over lots and lots of things that are very simplified for folks that have never played Path of Exile. So what exactly are we looking at here? On the bottom left-hand corner, you're going to have your health globe, and then you have something called a shield. You'll also see a name called energy shield. It's kind of the same thing, and it's going to be identified with a blue color right outside of the health globe, okay? The energy shield is basically like in Diablo 4, for instance, you have something called a barrier. And what's going to happen is when you get hit, the energy shield will be depleted first before your life. So think of it exactly as a shield, right? It's going to have to eat through or chew through that first before it can touch your health globe. That's going to be your energy shield. Off to the right is your mana or your mana, however you want to pronounce it. I happen to say mana. And in here, this is think of it as your primary resource, like in Diablo games like that. You're going to have a primary resource. In this game, it's going to be mana, okay? And you're going to have a number here that shows you how much you have. Now, below it is something called Spirit. Spirit is actually new to Path of Exile 2. It was not in Path of Exile 1. In Spirit, you're going to have on the outer edge of the mana globe. You know how you have like your energy shield or your shield on the health globe? Over here, you have Spirit. What Spirit is basically a way of using different skills that will enhance your gameplay, like buffs, like minions, like auto triggering certain things so that you can automate your gameplay. It basically reserves Spirit so that you can enhance your play, enhance your character, hit harder, do different things that are a little outside the cookie cutter, press action here and do these things. So next up after that is you have your actions at the bottom of your screen. It depends depending on if you're playing keyboard, mouse, or gamepad, but this is typically what it looks like. If you're on gamepad, you have these options. You see, you hit L2 or left trigger, you're going to have a second bar. Now, there's no toggle, I don't think. I think you have to press and hold it. I don't think you can like toggle it. At least I didn't see an option. So you have to press and hold that button to get to your second bar here. And these are all your actions. Beneath that is your XP bar. Now, I do wish the developers would add your player level on here. You can access your level by going into your menu. You can see your character level, but here is just your XP bar. On the top right-hand corner, you're going to have your mini map, and beneath that, if you enabled the clock, you have that as well. And if you enabled your gold as well, you'll also see how much gold you have, okay? If you're playing on gamepad, you can hit the touchpad or the select button, depending on what controller you're using, and you're going to be greeted to this screen here. You're going to have, off to the left, you'll have your character menu, and here you'll have your life information, energy shield information, mana, spirit, your block chance, evasion, armor, and then you'll have your resistances, each one with tooltips explaining to you exactly what each one does. And then you have your attributes like dexterity, intelligence, and strength. And then beneath that, you'll have a more of a snapshot view of all the details. Now, if you ever have questions about what each one does, especially if you're on gamepad, if you hit R3, you can now select underlined words that will give you a definition of that. In this example here, we're going to look at intelligence. So if you select intelligence, it tells you what intelligence is. Intelligence is an attribute required to use most equipment that grants energy shield as well as various spell-aligned weapons and skills. And then it says every one intelligence grants +2 to mana. Intelligence does not grant damage to skills or any other benefits except where specifically stated. That's just one example. You can even select another word called attribute. You'll get a definition of what attributes are, right? Dexterity, strength, it goes on and on. So if ever you're like stuck and like, what is this? When in doubt, click R3, select the underlined word, and it'll talk about that definition so that it can further educate you on what you're trying to learn in Path of Exile. The next tab is the passive skill tree. This is what I was talking about earlier. So whenever you select your class, you're going to start at that point from the center outwards. In this example here you see on screen, I chose the monk, and the monk just so happens to start right here on that northeastern part of this huge tree. So it's one big shared tree. Depending on the class that you choose, that's where you're going to start. Tabbing over to the skills tab, this is where you're going to insert your skills to be used by your character, along with skill gems, support gems, spirit gems. All that stuff goes into this screen here, and then from there you're going to apply that to your user interface so that you can use it in the game. Tabbing over here to the inventory screen, obviously this one here is going to show your gear. You can highlight each one. It'll show all your stuff here along with your inventory. Shows your gold at the bottom. Self-explanatory, but this is going to be your inventory area. Coming over to cosmetics, you have to pay for. You're going to see a term called MTX, and MTX stands for microtransactions, in case you're new to Path of Exile, but this is where you have your purchased cosmetics, okay? Things that you own will be here. So if you look at my character here, that's all MTX, all cosmetics that you see on the screen. Next up in the user interface are the quests, and here is a good look at the Act 1 map with all the locations here. If ever you're trying to figure out what does all this mean? If you look at the very bottom of your screen, it's always going to show you what the inputs are. You have select, show quest, map legend, and then inspect points of interest. If you look right above my camera here, it says map legend. It'll show you everything you need to know about the map, okay? Clicking that button again will bring us back to the default view. So by default, when you navigate around, you're going to have access to the waypoints. And then if you want to get more information, especially using a gamepad, you'll hit R3. And now you can highlight each icon on the map. We'll give you some details about that information. Now, if you hit off to the far right, you'll see select toggle between above and or below the ground. You can toggle between the difference of that. If you've played Elden Ring before, this is kind of like the Nokron City or whatever that kind of shows you beneath it. I wonder if they were inspired by Elden Ring. But yeah, if you go over here, you'll have the view to this map there. Just know that you have different layers. In Path of Exile 2, you'll have access to a stash, just like in Diablo, but in case you're new to Path of Exile, you'll have access to stash, and in here you're going to be able to stash things and put things in. Now what you're seeing on screen here is basically a microtransaction that I purchased to have access to the view here. But by default, if you have a stash, that doesn't have any microtransactions, you'll have what this looks like right here, your very standard stash tab view of tabs 1 and 2. But just know that if you want more of these tabs, you'll have to purchase them with actual money, as this game is free to play. But just know that, you don't have to have any of these, but this is what you get by default are the stash tabs here, okay? All right, let's go ahead and talk about skill gems and support gems. Skill gems are what you're going to use to basically attack with or have benefits of or buffs or things like that. So you know how in other games you have like the tree where you have like a skill, you select that skill, you put it on your hotbar, on your bar, whatever, and then you can use that skill. This is the same thing, but in this fashion, they come in the form of a gem, and you'll take that gem and put that into this user interface you see on the screen here in order to use that on your hotbar, all right? So in this example, I'm using a skill gem called Tempest Flurry. And what you're going to do here is you're going to take this gem, right, on the gamepad, you're going to simply hit the X button or A button, and you're going to move that over to an empty slot. You can see a bouncing arrow that says put it here or wherever else that's empty, or you can simply replace one with another one. It's all pretty intuitive. So in this example, I'm going to drop that right there, and boom, you'll see an icon right there. You'll see some details about Tempest Flurry and everything you need to know about that. Now, what about, how do I want to support this, okay? Well, there's something called support gems that further enhance the skill even further. So what we're going to do is we're going to tab back over to our inventory, and we'll look at these support gems here. One's called Conduction and one's called Lightning Infusion. These are not recommendations, and I'm not telling you you have to use these. No. This is just a simple example of what support gems are. So what we do is we're going to take this Conduction one, this support gem, highlight it, and then we're going to bring it over to the interface to the left, and we're going to simply drop it right next to Tempest Flurry. And then now that support gem is linked to that gem. Okay. Now, how do you know which gems are supported? How do you know that? Well, easy. What you'll do is whenever you highlight the support gem, if you look right in the middle of your screen, it says supportable skills. And you'll see most of them have a green check mark, but you'll see, look at charged staff. There's a red X. That means you cannot use that support gem with that skill. All right. So if you're always wondering, well, which one is supported, or look at Orb of Storms as well, another X right there. That's how you know if it's going to work or not. It's going to have a green check mark or a red X. Now let's go ahead and put Lightning Infusion back over to the user interface right next to Tempest Flurry. Now the next question is, how do you get more support sockets? Okay. Now I'm at the point in the game where I'm still at the very beginning. I haven't unlocked any sockets yet, but I do know how, and I want to show you that right now. I'm not going to use the item because I'm trying to save it for later gems. But to get more sockets, okay, you need an item called Jeweler's Orb. And if I go over to my currency tab in the stash, the item looks just like this right here. It says Lesser Jeweler's Orb, and they're going to be tiered. You'll get different versions of these Jeweler's Orbs. You find them out just by playing the game. All right, it's going to be a drop. You pick it up, boom, it's in your inventory, put it in your stash tab, and you'll have this ready to go. What is a Jeweler's Orb? It says adds a support gem socket to a skill gem with 2 support gem sockets. That's the lesser version of a Jeweler's Orb. Eventually, I'll have more that are of a higher tier that will get me more sockets. But at the time of this recording, I've only found one, and I want to make sure that I use this very strategically. I don't want to waste it on a gem I may not be using in the future. But just so you know, that's how you add sockets to your gems, is with Jeweler's Orbs. Another tip that I want to go over about skill gems is in this menu, in this example rather, I'm going to click on Tempest Flurry and open up this menu here. From here, I'm going to click on Advanced Info. This is where you're going to find more granular information about that particular action or that particular skill, such as your damage per second output, average damage per use, main hand total damage. Also, if you're doing melee, you're kind of wondering, what's my accuracy rating? Am I hitting 100% of the time or not? It's right there under the damage category. Then you have usage, critical hits, ailments, on-hit effects, right? So this is another way to find out what exactly you're doing with your damage. Another way to find out more info about your skill gem is coming into the skill tree like here. Highlight a node that you haven't selected yet to find out if it's beneficial for you or not. So in this example here, I don't have flow state, which gives me 5% increased skill speed and 15% increased mana regeneration rate. So if I click on R3 on the gamepad, it's going to show me my recovery speed goes up a little bit, mono recovery speed goes up a little bit, and then quarterstaff, normal strikes, and strike damage per second. That's the DPS it's going to show me in real time if I choose to get that node. Here's another example, Wild Storm. I don't have Wild Storm yet. 15% more maximum lightning damage. You click on R3, and then what do you know? You have your information about normal strikes and quarterstaff strike, and those are the DPS numbers. So right here, normal strikes, damage per second. Right now, I'm at 862.83. If I grab this node, it's going to jump up to 928.02. You know, one thing I want to talk about while we're talking about these skill gems is they do have a requirement. And I think it's very important to stop and talk about this, especially for new players, for beginners, is when you look at a skill gem, please take note of the requirements, okay, the stat requirements. You can find that in the middle of the tooltip. You see where it says requires level 10. You need 15 dexterity and 15 intelligence in order to wield this. Let me show you an example of one that can't work on me because I only have 7 strength. This right here, persistence. You see where it says support requirements plus 5 strength, and it says it has a 10 in parentheses. That means that I cannot use this because I don't have the requirements. Same thing for Ruthless, right? So how do we fix that? Well, if we go over to your character menu here, you'll see off to the right side that I only have 7 strength. You see that right here on the character as well. I have 76 dexterity, 86 intelligence, and 7 strength. All right. So if you want to get more strength, you can refund passive skill points and get the strength that you need, or the attribute requirement to wield or use that skill point. I do talk about refunds on respect tree and all that stuff later in this video. Okay, now let's talk about spirit gems. Okay, these are gems that require the resource called spirit. Okay, I'm going to back out of my screen here and I'm going to show you now. You see on the bottom right hand corner next to the monoglobe, you'll now see 54 of 54 spirit, and that's going to be visualized by that outer rim there. It's kind of like a pewter color or like a whitish color or yellowish right there. You see that? That's going to be your spirit gauge, and you can use certain gems that use that resource. Now I'm going to open up my menu here and we're going to go back to our inventory. And so this is what I'm talking about. If you go over to the skills tab, you see this right here, Herald of Thunder. If you look at it, it says reservation. It'll cost 30 spirit to use Herald of Thunder. And you can also have support gems that will support or, buff up or increase the power of the Herald of Thunder buff. Does that make sense? So you know how earlier we were moving the gems into the user interface? It's the same thing. It works exactly the same. So we're going to take Herald of Thunder and we're going to put it over here into the skill tree or the skill user interface. And now we'll have Herald of Thunder. Now what you're going to do is you're going to say, okay, I want to support this. So what do I do here? Let's grab support gems that will benefit that. In this example, I'm going to use Clarity, which gets me 30% increased mana regeneration rate while a supported skill is active. Well, Herald of Thunder is always active for me, so we're going to grab this support gem. You see how it says this support can't be socketed all the way down? You see that all in red? The game will tell you if the gem doesn't work. It'll tell you, all right? In this example here, Herald of Thunder, it works. Everything else is like, nope. So let's go ahead and drop that in here. Another support gem that I'm using here is called Innervate. We'll go ahead and grab that support gem there and we'll drop it into Herald of Thunder. Okay, so how do you enable or disable the aura, okay, or the spirit reservation? How do you turn this on? How do you turn it off? Now I think on keyboard mouse, you simply just click the icon, but if you're on gamepad, if you look at the very bottom of your screen, you're going to see X or A for select, and then you'll see square or X for toggle aura. So I'm going to hit the square button, and it comes up with this screen here. Now you'll see the Roman numeral 1 and the Roman numeral 2. What does that mean? That means weapon sets. You can have up to 2 weapons on Path of Exile 2 or in Path of Exile 2. But we're talking about weapon set 1, my primary weapon that I have equipped, okay? And you'll see at the top of the screen, it says Spirit 14. And what you're gonna do is on the D-pad, you'll hit up or down to turn it off or on. In this example here, I have it turned off. I get all of my spirit back, goes up to 54 spirit. But I wanna go ahead and turn this on. So I'm gonna say on, then I have 14 spirit left. It used up, my cost is 40 spirit. Now just know that whenever you put support gems with this, in some cases, it'll cost more spirit as you put on support gems. So just know that the base cost is 30, Then one of the support gems is 10, right? So it's going to end up using 40 spirit for this particular example. And that's how you use the aura. You'll see that rotating icon to let you know that it is working. All right. So when you back out of the menu, you'll see that Herald of Thunder is here for weapon set 1, and you back out, and now this aura is active. And you'll know that because if you look at the bottom right hand part of your screen, the spirit is now used up. Okay. So now it says spirit, I have 14 left of 54. That's how you know that it's working. There's also, when you're out fighting, there's going to be an icon somewhere on your screen that shows you that it is enabled. Okay. The next topic that I want to go over is, how do you get skills? How do you get support gems, skill gems? How do you get these things? Well, by playing the game, honestly. When you play the game, enemies will drop the skill gems. And what are those called? You're going to have different, what they call uncut gems. There's uncut skill gems, uncut support gems, and there's uncut spirit gems. Okay. Now, I don't have examples of two of the examples of support and spirit right now in the video, but I do have skill gems, but they're one and the same. So basically, you'll pick these up. You can either store them or use them, your choice. Now, as an example here, I'm going to take the tier 6 out. I'll also take out this one as well, this tier 9. I want to talk about that. Why are they tiered? Let's go ahead and open up the menu again. So here we have uncut skill gems is level 9, and then uncut skill gem level 6. You'll see the Roman numeral number on the bottom right-hand corner. What does that even mean? Let's start with the Roman numeral 6. I'm going to hit the square button to engrave it. It's going to bring up this screen here. All right. By default, you'll hear a narrator going over the video. You can hit L3 to mute the video immediately. And so what's going to happen here is you're going to be granted to certain skills based on their level. So if you see here, you'll have a Roman numeral 1, that's level 1 skills. Roman numeral 3, level 3 skills, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. Okay, so this is going to be basically your screen for your skills. Now, if you notice at the very, very top, you'll see quarterstaff, right? I just so happen to have a quarterstaff equipped. That's the weapon type. If you hit R1, L1, you'll tab over to something called occult, right? And then you have bow, and then mace, elemental, crossbow, back to quarterstaff. Okay, so what you want to do here is you want to decide, number 1, do I want to grab a brand new skill, or do I simply want to upgrade a skill? And in this example here, I can't upgrade my current skill. But let's say that I'm under quarterstaff and I want to try out vaulting impact. So I can select this and put it on my skill bar up to level 6. Here's one called Wind Blast, Ice Strike, so on and so forth. But just know that this skill gem that we grabbed is at a certain level and lower. Okay, so I'm going to back out of this menu and let's go to the one that says tier 9. Same button, open this up. Now we have another option here that's on the Roman numeral 9 row because we grabbed a Roman numeral 9 or level 9 skill gem. So as you go through the acts, you'll get higher ranked skill gems. So if you're in Act 1, you're probably going to get, uncut gems for like level 1 skills, maybe level 3, but just know that you'll have access to these better ones as you progress throughout the game. Does that make sense? So here we go. Check this out. This is the tab that I couldn't show you earlier. It's called upgradable. You know how before I was showing you quarterstaff, occult, bow? Well, then if you have a skill gem that's of a higher tier, there's actually an upgradable tab. And from here, you can upgrade one of your existing skills in case you don't want a brand new skill. You're like, no, I don't want a new skill. I actually want to upgrade or level up what I already have. Guess what? You can do that with a higher tiered uncut gem. And so let's say that I want to upgrade my Orb of Storms or my Storm Wave or Tempest Bell or whatever. I can simply upgrade that. You'll see the plus symbol. And then off to the left, you'll see it goes up from, one level to another. You'll see where it says required levels. You'll see the stats go up, the damage go up, all the information that goes up with like arrows pointing to the right saying, what are you getting in return? As an example here, it says Frozen Locust. The attack damage will go from 363 to 386 with just one level up. But that's how you upgrade a skill. Next, I want to go over something very basic and simple, but this is a beginner guide, right? And some of you guys have never played Path of Exile before. In Path of Exile 2, you have 2 types of flasks, and I don't have access to any others outside of the examples I'm going to show you. As I'm still playing the game, I'm only in Act 3. But in this video, at this moment, we can talk about the life flask and the mana flask, okay? So your life flask, very self-explanatory. You're going to be using this life flask here to heal you up, and you do have charges, just like in Diablo, you'll have charges. Same thing for the mana flask. This is going to restore that primary resource that you need to be able to use your actions. And if we tab out of here, I'll do the best I can to zoom in on post so you can see what I'm talking about. But at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see the life flask has a number 7. The mana flask has a number 7. And if you want more charges, right? If you're playing the game right now, you're in Act 1, and let's say you only have like 3 or 4 charges. How do you get more charges? All right, so if you want to get more charges on the flask, you're going to look for, you see right there in the middle of the screen or the middle of the tooltip, it says consumes 10 of 75 charges. So if you're one of those players that you want to have like 8, 9, 10 charges, you want the one that has the more charges on that flask. Does that make sense? So if you want to have more charges, look for that number first and then go from there. Now, if you want to refill your flasks, come over to the well, just click on the well, it'll light up and it'll fill up your flasks automatically. Another way to fill up your flasks is when you're out and about in the open world, you're going to be able to fill them up by simply walking over a waypoint that you haven't found yet, and also checkpoints. You can fill them up at checkpoints as well in the game. It'll fill it right up. Next up in the video, I want to go over charms. So charms are basically socketable items that you can put into your belt and how you get more. So right now you see that we have like 3 options or 3 available slots. I only have 1 unlocked. I'm willing to bet that you do too. Now, to unlock 2 and 3, you need to pick up a belt that has charm slots on it. Now, if you look at the screen here, you'll see this belt has the very top of the tooltip. It says charm slots 1. That's why I only have 1. So if you're ever wondering, how do I get more slots? It's on your belt. That's how you do that, okay? Now, what are charms, all right? You have so many different types of charms, and how you get them, play the game, kill enemies, pick up the loot. They drop from enemies, pick one up. I usually store mine in my stash. I have a bunch of different types of charms, and I'll end up using them a little later. But basically, they're basically conditioned buffs that only work when something happens. So check this out. This example here is called Sunny Staunching Charm of the Doctor. It's a charm that lasts 3 seconds. It consumes 60 of 80 charges on use. And it says, currently, I have 80 charges on this one charm. And what does it do? It says it grants immunity to bleeding. All right, requires level 20. It also says used when you start bleeding. Okay, so it's kind of cool. When I start bleeding and I have charges, guess what happens? This will automatically trigger where I'm not bleeding anymore. Damage over time. Pretty nasty stuff. So if you haven't played this game yet, bleeding can ruin your day if you're not careful. So this will also gain 22 guard during effect. There's a 29% chance to gain a charge when you kill an enemy. Okay, so like I said, they're conditioned in a way that when something happens to you, depending on what it says, you get a benefit in return. But here's some other charms here. Here we have Silver Charm, where it says your speed is unaffected by slows, which is great, like chilled ground. You're not going to be slowed anymore. So use this when you're affected by slow. This is actually a really good charm. If I had all 3 opened up, I would throw in slow as well. Slow, bleed, all that stuff. And so here's another one here. Topaz Charm, 25% to lightning resistance, used when you take lightning damage from a hit. Now, just know that when you equip this, you're not gaining 25% lightning resistance. You don't get that just by equipping it. You only get that when you meet the condition, which is the following. When you take lightning damage, your resistance goes up by 25%, okay? You get what I'm saying? It's like a give and take. Does that make sense? Here's one more example here. It's called the Sapphire Charm of the Copious, and it says 25% to cold resistance. Use when you take cold damage. You'll get 25% cold resistance, okay? And then there's 22% increased duration and 31% increased charges. Okay, now let's talk about NPCs. So there are certain NPCs that you can talk to that do a couple of things. In this example, we're in Act 1, and let's say Renly, for example. We'll talk to Renly, and you'll see off to the right side, he's got buy or sell items. You'll hit that button, and you can open up this menu here off to the left, and you can simply purchase an item. Let's say you're running low on gear, or you're trying to find out what they have for sale. I would always hop in here because there are times where these NPCs will sell a rare item. Rare equals the yellow item you see on screen, which is the upgraded version from normal to magic and then rare, you're going to want to have rare as soon as you can. There's just more benefits on it. There's more affixes. There's more things on it that'll help you out with your character, especially early on, especially when you're a beginner in Path of Exile 2. Okay. So how do you get this, right? So you're going to need gold. Gold is actually a resource in Path of Exile 2, and you'll pick up gold just by playing the game, killing enemies, picking up gold, just like in other games like Diablo, and then you'll spend that gold to buy an item. In here, you'll have access to magic items, normal items, rare items, so on and so forth. Now, let's say that you want to sell something. So if I want to sell something, what you're going to do is once you're in the menu here, you can tab over here. And if you look at the very bottom of your screen, especially if you're playing gamepad, you have buttons that's called pickup with the X button or A button. And then you have sell item with triangle or the Y button. Okay. And so if I want to sell this charm, you'll get 66 gold in return, or 82 gold, 130 gold, 150 gold. So you can sell items in exchange for gold with the NPC. Another NPC here is, especially in Act 1, is Una, and Una will sell different, different items such as these weapons here you see on screen, elixirs. You have your mana elixir, your health elixir, and even sells wisdom scrolls if you need to buy that as well, all with gold. Another option here that Una has, and other NPCs have this option as well in the other acts, but I want to show you Una because you probably most likely are in Act 1 now, is the disenchant item, and you hit that by triangle button or the Y button on gamepad, and you'll basically be able to disenchant certain items. The items that won't be able to disenchant are going to be grayed out. As you see in the inventory, it's grayed out. You can't disenchant it. But if let's say you have a magic item or a rare item, you can disenchant it, break it down into shards of a certain type of material that you can use for crafting, which I'll go over later in this video. Now, because these here are magic items, which is the color of blue, they're going to give me, or she's going to give me, a transmutation shard, okay? If I had a rare item or a yellow item to break down or disenchant, I'll get in return a regal shard, okay? And you'll store that into your stash. You'll build one up to the actual item that you can use for crafting. These shards, you'll need a stack of shards in order to make one of the crafting items, like a transmutation orb or regal orb, okay? Again, I'll go over crafting and the items here in a little bit. Another NPC that you want to talk to is the hooded one, where you can have all of these items in your inventory that are not identified. You can simply do this for free. You hit identify items and he'll identify all your items for you at no cost. You can also talk to the hooded one to refund your passives, which we'll go over later in this video. There is another type of NPC that you can talk to throughout your journey here, and it's basically an NPC that allows you to quote unquote kind of gamble for an item so long as you have the gold. So in this example here, you'll see that this particular NPC has question marks on the items of like energy shield, question mark, random gloves, random helmet, random body armor. It's all random. It's all gambling. But if you feel like luck is on your side and you have the gold, you can go ahead and pick up a piece of gear that you hopefully will get back in return that's going to benefit you. The downside of this is it's not guaranteed to be a rare item. Some cases you'll get magic. In some cases, you'll get a rare item, so use with caution. So as an example here, I'll just go ahead and purchase this random helmet where we get evasion rating and energy shield. So I'll go ahead and buy that and let's see what we get. As you can see here, I got a rare item, and if you don't like it, you can sell it back for 449 gold. It did cost me, I think, 2,500 gold. But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to gamble your way into gear, you can do that, but just know that it can be magic, it can be rare. You really don't know, but that's one way to get some gear. And if you want to compare the item that you have, especially if you're on gamepad, hit R3. It'll show you what's equipped on the right versus what you would like to equip on the left. That way you can kind of compare the two. And from the looks of this, it looks like the right item has better stats for me anyways. I have more energy shield, life, mana, resistance, some accuracy. Overall, just it seems to be a better item on the right. Another good NPC to talk to is when you get to Act 1 Cruel, you can talk to Finn here, and there's going to be a currency exchange. Now, there's also another NPC. Her name is Alva. She'll also allow for currency exchange. This is an online currency exchange market so long as you're in the trade league. This is just like POE1 and the latest league. And here, you can actually exchange currency that you're looking for in this user interface. So let's say that I wanted to have a perfect jeweler's orb. You would need 45 exalted orbs for one perfect jeweler's orb, all right? But let's say I don't want any of this. Let's say I want something else. You open up the menu here, and off to the left, you're going to have different tabs here. You're going to have all, popular, currency, delirium, breach, fragments, expedition, essences, runes, omens, and soul cores. This is what all you can exchange. So if you go to popular, you'll see exactly what's going on here. You have greater jeweler's orbs, perfect. Everything on this screen is what's going on right now that's popular, right? Okay. So let's say that you're looking for Artificer's Orb, for instance, which is going to get you, adds rune socket to your weapon or armor, right? Let's say I want some of that. Well, go ahead and select that. And if you look at the market ratio, it says 4-to-1. So for 4 Artificer's Orb, it's going to require 1 Exalted Orb. But let's say you don't have any Exalted Orbs and you have Chaos Orbs. Go ahead and select this here. And it's going to go up to the Owned tab, what you have. And you're going to tab up to the Chaos Orb. And when you do this, it says the market ratio is 2 Artificer's Orb for 1 Chaos. So what we do here is we exchange that just like that. We match that ratio, the market ratio. And if you want to know more about the market ratio, just go up and it's going to have a drop down that shows you what's in stock. So 2-1, 254, 1.33 for 1 is 60, so on and so forth. Okay. So basically the market ratio at the top, make sure that number matches. So 2 for 1. And then I also have 2 for 1. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to go ahead and just place the order. And here comes the screen. It says, confirm this order. The gold cost to place this order cannot be refunded. So I'm selling 1 Chaos Orb, buying 2 Artificer's Orb at the cost of 2,000 gold. We'll go ahead and place that order. And now it has a pending market order here, basically saying I want to buy 2 of these. I'm selling 1 Chaos Orb. And it says order is completed. So what we do here is we tab over this and we say collect all at the bottom, copy trade, or switch items. So I'm going to say collect all. And if you look over to the right side of the screen in the inventory, there are my 2 Artificer's Orb, just like that, super quick. So in Path of Exile 2, they introduced a rune system, and you'll have some items will come with sockets, some will not. So if we walk over to my stash here, I'll show you how to add sockets to your items and how to put in runes and things like that. Okay. So I'm going to go over to this tab here. And what I'm going to show you is the following. If you want to add sockets to your gear, you need an item right here called the Artificer's Orb. All right. Adds a rune socket to a weapon or armor. Okay. So that's how you get that Artificer's Orb. How I found this was looting, just playing the game. It drops. I haven't gotten very many of these, so I don't know another way of getting these orbs. If you're watching this video and you know another way, please let us know, because right now I'm only getting it through random drops and they haven't been dropping very frequently. Now, moving on to the runes, right? We have runes in Path of Exile 2. And here is the a list of runes right here at the bottom of your screen. You have like glacial rune, storm rune, iron rune. The list goes on. And I basically just store these until I need to use them. Early on, I haven't been using them. I'm using a couple, but I would probably experiment with this. Now, here's the bad news about runes. And I'm not a fan of this, but once you socket in your rune, that's it. You can't unsocket the rune. I don't know why they did that, but it is what it is. I really wish they would revert that, allow us to swap the runes in and out, let us experiment a little bit. But once you put in that rune in that socket, it's over. You cannot use it again. It's done. Just be aware of that. Now, what are runes? Basically, runes are extra benefits of things that you need for your character. Like, I'm gonna give you a couple examples here. Glacial rune. If you put the rune into your weapon, it'll add 6 to 10 cold damage. If you put the rune into your armor, I'll get 12% cold resistance. I'm going to tab over to the next one. This one here is called Storm Rune. Lightning damage if I put it in the weapon, and then 12% lightning resistance into the armor. One last example, Iron Rune. If I put it into my weapon, I get 20% increased physical damage, and then the armor will be 20% increased armor, evasion, and energy shield. One thing I want to talk about real quick, especially for new players and beginners, is your stash tab, or your stash rather. In the stash, you'll have different tabs. Now, what you're seeing on screen is you're not going to have this by default. If you're new to the game, you're most likely only going to have, I believe, only these 2 tabs here. Default, plain Jane. You can't really do anything with this stuff. It's just really plain, okay? So if you're looking for more tabs, this is how GGG, or Grinding Gear Games, makes their money. It's from microtransactions, or MTX. They make that through, well, these stash tabs, right? Do you need these? No. Are you going to want them? Yes. Okay. How do you even get these tabs? Well, you're going to have to open up your menu here, or go ahead, hit pause actually, go to the microtransaction shop. And here in the shop, you'll be looking for stash tabs right here. And if I were you, I would wait for sales. Don't get stash tabs when there's no sale, because these go on sale quite a bit. And basically, you'll just look at the points. You'll purchase the points with your actual money, and then purchase these tabs. But like I said earlier, wait for stash tab sales. They happen very frequently, and they're much, much cheaper than what you're seeing in this recording right now. Now, one of the recommended tabs that I would think I think you should get. There's one, and I think it's agreed upon holistically across the whole community, is the currency tab. If you're trying to look for any of these tabs, like which one should I get? The currency tab is, to me, the best tab. I think you should have this one. And then also a good quad stash tab. It costs a little bit more money, but the quad stash tab is exactly what it means. Quad 4. So you have 4 of the normal tabs and one huge quad tab. But all the others are subjective. I think the gem stash tab is I think they're all great. I mean, I can sit here forever and talk about which ones I think you should get. But for me, I have all of them, but I've been playing POE1 for a while, so I just love these tabs. But again, wait for them to be on sale. Come in here and at least grab the currency stash tab. You'll thank me later on that one. And once you have purchased those tabs, you'll simply come in here to your stash, and you'll have all these tabs. You'll have the currency tab. You'll have a unique tab if you bought it. Here's the gems tab, what it looks like. And here you have sub tabs as well. You have, let's see, skill, support, persistent and buffs, uncut gems. You have the flask tab for life and mana flask. You have the essence tab, delirium for a thing later in the game that's not really beginner related, so we won't go over that. But that's my point. You have all these different tabs if you end up purchasing them. You can even categorize and rename them, color the tab. For example, I have like jewels here, rings and amulets, charms, weapons, boots and gloves. You get the point. There's the quad tab. I have 2 of them just to show you an example of what that looks like, how large it is, how much stuff you can put in there. But that's my point. If you're trying to get involved with the game and the community, I would recommend checking out the MTX stash tabs. In addition to that, if you have a guild or you started a guild, you have another stash called the guild stash. And here it says to get a guild stash tab, you need to purchase one from the microtransaction shop in order to use the guild stash tab. But just know you have more inventory space if you have a guild. Okay, so next up, we're gonna be talking about crafting. How do you do that? What items do you need? So in Path of Exile 2, you're gonna have items that drop that are either in a normal state, magic state, a rare state, or unique, okay? Now, let's say you found an item that's in a normal state. If I tab over to the inventory, I have a silver charm here that's in a normal state. You can tell that's normal because the text is your default like grayish or whitish color. That's in a normal state, okay? And if you tab back over here, the first item that we're going to talk about is called the Orb of Transmutation. And thankfully, the tooltip says exactly what it does. Okay, in case you're new, it's right there on the screen. Upgrades a normal item to a magic item with 1 modifier. Remember, if you don't know what any of this is, hit R3, select the underlined words. It'll tell you exactly what the item rarity is of magic and then normal. It's all here on the screen for you, okay? What we're gonna do, we're gonna take this Orb of Transmutation like this. We're gonna hit use, and then we're gonna come over here to the item that's normal, and then we're gonna simply apply it. Now, boom, it gets upgraded to the magic version or magic tier, and then we get 1 modifier. It says 17% reduced charges per use. That's the modifier that I got, all right? Now, let's say I wanna add more onto this. I want 1 more modifier, okay? What do? Come over here. We have Orb of Augmentation, which says augments a magic item, okay, with a new random modifier. Let's go ahead and hit use. We'll come over here, and then boom, we now have a second modifier. It's still state magic, okay? And it says 16% increased duration and 17% reduced charges per use. Those are my 2 modifiers under the magic category. Now, how do I upgrade that to a rare version? That's when the Regal Orb comes into play. So it doesn't work on charms, but if you have a piece of gear, like a weapon, ring, amulet, helmet, whatever, that you can upgrade to the rare version. Okay, another crafting example here is these hunting shoes you see on screen. It's currently a normal item. And what I want to do here is I want to craft on this so we can upgrade it to a rare. Let's go ahead and walk through that. So the first process here is we want to look at the Orb of Transmutation. We're going to use that and then drop it on the boots here. And then here we have 15% to lightning resistance. And after that, I'm going to grab an Orb of Augmentation. We'll grab that. and add another one here. We get 32 to maximum mana. And then you can try again, but you'll see that you'll have items has no space for more mods, just in case you're trying to figure out, oh, can I add more? No, it'll tell you. And then finally, we have the Regal Orb. We'll go ahead and use this and make it into a rare item that looks just like that. We got 69 life, 32 maximum mana, and 15 to lightning resistance. Not gonna lie to you, I was hoping for some movement speed on the boots, but we didn't get that. Now, how can you add more modifiers? Can you do that? Yeah, you can get, I think, 6 to 7 modifiers. I don't know the exact max modifiers you can get, but I think it's in between 6 and 7. But how do you get more, right? We have 3. Where are the other 3? Well, you're going to have an item called an Exalted Orb right here. Augments a rare item with a new random modifier. And I only have 1, but you know what? It's early access and I really don't care. So I'm going to go ahead and use this. I know a lot of people are like, no, don't use your Exalted Orb on that. I don't care. We're going to use it for the sake of this video. I'm taking one for the team, guys. So here we go. I'm going to use this Exalted Orb and we're going to add another modifier onto these boots just like that. And unfortunately, we did not get movement speed. We got +7 to stun threshold. So here's an example of that. If you have more Exalted Orbs, you can keep adding more modifiers on it. Now, let's say you don't like these modifiers. You can grab what they call a Chaos Orb, and a Chaos Orb will replace one of the modifiers with something else, okay, on a rare item, that is. So that's basically crafting in a nutshell. Another thing I want to talk about, since we're going over crafting, is how do you improve the quality of an item, and why would you want to do that? To improve the quality of something, you're going to need items such as the Arcanist Etcher, the Armorer's Scrap, or the Blacksmith's Whetstone. They each have their own use case. Moving over to the Arcanist Etcher, it says improves the quality of a wand, a staff, or a scepter. And what does that quality even mean? Like I keep mentioning in the video, hit R3, click on quality. It gives you the definition of what quality does. Quality grants small bonuses to an item depending on the type of item. And read all this and it'll tell you exactly why you should quality up your gear, your weapons, or whatever. It basically enhances the gear, all right? But what I'm going to do here is kind of walk through each one of these and what they do. So that right there is called the Arcanist Etcher. Like I said before, wand, staff, scepter. Next up is the Armorer's Scrap. This one improves the quality of a piece of armor, like your body armor, your boots, your gloves, all right? Next up is the Blacksmith's Whetstone. This improves the quality of in my example here, a martial weapon, which is what I'm using. I'm on monk, right? So it's going to improve the quality of that staff that I'm using on the right-hand side of your screen. We already went over Artificer's Orb, but again, this is going to be add sockets to your gear for your weapon and armor so that you can add runes, okay? That's what that's used for. And then we have Scroll of Wisdom, which identifies items that are not identified. The next part of the crafting section of this video is I want to talk about the salvage bench, and this is what it looks like. And once you select this, it's going to open up a menu here that says salvage bench, salvage equipment items with quality or sockets for quality currency and artificer shards. And I went ahead and picked up an item that happened to have quality. How do you know that? If you look at the tooltip at the very top, it says quality plus 5%. That's how you know an item has quality for you beginners out there, okay? And it says hit X to salvage. I'm using a PlayStation controller, so we hit X to salvage. And when I do that, it turns into an Arcanist Etcher, which improves the quality of a wand, staff, or a scepter. All right. You can do the same thing with other armor. I don't have any examples here in the video, but let's say you had quality on a piece of gear and let's say an armor, you would do that. And then in turn, you would get an Armorer's Scrap. So what I'm trying to show you is if you look off to the left here in my inventory, you'll see that each one is in a category. So if I had a quality piece of armor and I did that at the salvaging bench, I would get back Armorer's Scrap. If I did a quality of a martial weapon, or the weapon I'm using here, I would get back Blacksmith's Whetstone. In that example you saw, I traded in quality for wand, staff, or scepter, and what did I get? I got an Arcanist Etcher. So whatever item you have that has quality on it, you'll get that in that same item in return for this currency here. So in Path of Exile, we have checkpoints in POE2, that is. We have checkpoints that look just like this right here on the screen, and all you have to do is just walk by them. And when and if you die, you'll respawn at that checkpoint system. Now, when you respawn, all the enemies will also respawn, just like in a Souls game, okay? Now, a good news is about this is if you're running low on flasks, right? Let's say you're 0 and 0 on your life and mana. And if you run by one of these checkpoints and it lights up, it fills up your life flask and your mana flask, and completely fills it up. Same thing goes for waypoints. Whenever you walk by a waypoint, it activates automatically. It'll also refill your flasks as well. It doesn't refill it when it's already activated. And if you want to know what these are, you basically select the waypoint. It'll take you to the map here. And then whatever waypoint you have activated show up in blue, and then you can teleport around at no cost. Another quick tip here is when you open up the waypoint and you want to go back to town quicker, you don't need to navigate all the way down to the logo that says town. No. Look at the bottom of the screen. It says hit triangle or Y to warp back to town, right? So I'm way up here, hit the button, and boom. Without just one click of a button, it takes me right back to the town. So it's a really good tip there for teleportation in the waypoint system. One thing I want to talk about this video is how to reset an instance in an area so that you can reset the mobs and farm, gold, materials, gear, things of that nature. How do you do that? On a gamepad, it's a little different than on a keyboard mouse. I want to talk about both. So basically, whenever you go to a waypoint, all right, go ahead and open up your waypoint. And let's say I want to go to the hunting grounds as an example. On a gamepad, you'll press the A or X button, depending on what controller, right? Open that menu up, right? It's going to come down. If you look at the very bottom of your screen, some new options are available. It says Instance Manager. If you press and hold the X button or A button, it's going to come up with this menu here called Instance Manager. And here it says instances stay open for 8 to 15 minutes. And what you want to do is you select this just like that. It'll teleport you there. And then now you have a fresh instance of the mobs. They all reset. The map resets as well. If you open up your map, it's all not revealed yet. So basically, if you're trying to farm, that's how you do that. Another way to reset is if you go up to the actual instance and not the waypoint menu. Here's an example right here, the clear fell. It's telling you to use that rotating icon. You press and hold this and it comes up with a new instance. You can either do new instance or I'll enter the instance that I was already in where it says I have 17 minutes left of that instance that I already been into, or choose a new instance where it does 8 to 15 minutes. If you stay in there and you get all new mobs, you have to unlock the whole map and all that stuff. But that's how you reset for farming purposes. Now to reset instances with a mouse and keyboard, just simply walk up to a waypoint like this. And then once you get to your menu like this right here, find the waypoint you want to go to and just simply hit Control and then left click just like that. It'll bring up your instance manager here and then decide which one from there. Do you want a new instance or do you want to re-enter the one you were just in? In Path of Exile 2, you can respec on the skill tree. All right, you need gold to do that. But you also need to talk to this NPC here, the hooded one. You'll talk to the hooded one and you'll see an option to the right-hand side called Refund Passives. I'm using a PlayStation controller. Hit the triangle button. It's going to be Y for Xbox controller users. And you bring this up and it even says at the top of the screen, Refund Passives, right? And I'll go ahead and do this right now. Your gold is off to the right, your stats, all that stuff over there. But let's say that I want to refund a point. By the way, you can't refund a point that's already linked. Like this one right here, the Storm Surge. If you hit refund, it won't let you do it because it's linked up. So you have to go to the very last node, which is Unbound Forces. I'll refund it for 990 gold. And then I'll go ahead and you have to hit apply changes, one unconfirmed passive skill change. You hit square or X to apply changes, and then it'll take away that gold. But let's say you did that right there and you don't want that to happen. You simply back out of the menu or you hit circle or B, and then it'll put it right back and you didn't spend any gold in case it was an accident. All right. Now here's another tip that I want to talk about that I think is really, really awesome that I didn't actually know until I was live on stream. And I'm like, oh, wow, you can actually change that. And it's these right here. You see these attribute points where it says like intelligence, strength, dexterity. Did you know that you can change any of these at any time with gold? So even in the middle, like right here, you see this intelligence node? It's linked right there in the middle of all this stuff, right? But let's say you're lacking intelligence or dexterity or strength and you need some for certain gems, right? Check this out. I'm in the middle. I'm going to refund for 991 and then a menu comes up and says, oh, I can select strength, dexterity, or intelligence in case I need it. And then you apply it and they'll take away that gold from you. So just know that you can actually change your attribute points anywhere on the tree based on your needs. When you're playing Path of Exile 2 and you're trying to figure out like where to go next or what are you supposed to be doing, basically what I do is I open up the menu and I tab over to the quest tab at the very top of your screen, okay? So how do I get here? I simply hit the touchpad or the select button, whatever gamepad you're using or keyboard mouse, and then I tab over to quests. And then here, I happen to be in Act 3 right now. And so you see the Roman numeral right there, the ones, that's the next objective where I need to go. Just in case you're wondering, where do I go next? That's going to be where you're going next. And while we're here, you'll see that these question marks right here says the Motlin waterways. I haven't been there yet. There's a question mark on it. Just so you know, it does show you what's going on. If you hit R3, it highlights these items here, and it pretty much show you the stuff that's grayed out are things that we've already completed. Like these bosses here, I defeated those bosses, it's grayed out. I got that loot, it's grayed out. So an example here is the Troubled Camp. It's showing like a bright solid color. I haven't been there yet. Another Troubled Camp, haven't been there, right? This boss here, it's showing it's lit up, it's not grayed out. I haven't fought that boss yet. So just so you know, like, where do you want to go? Where to next? Those are the icons you want to look for so that you know where to go to from there. Does that make sense? The next part of this video, we'll be talking about weapon swapping and how you can have 2 sets of weapons for different use cases. You don't have to do this in the game. If it's too complicated, you can skip it entirely, but there are some good benefits to this, and POE2 has made an interesting implementation of weapon swapping, how you can automate that depending on your skill. I want to talk to you about that. So right now, I'm only using one weapon, and you'll look at the Roman numeral above that weapon. There's a Roman numeral of 1. Now, if I come down to this second weapon here in this example, I want to have a second weapon set, and you'll simply just equip it like this right here, or you can grab it like this and put it into weapon slot 2. All right, so here you have weapon 1 and weapon 2. You don't have to manually swap between the two. You can if you want to, but there's even a better system in here on how to automatically swap, and here is what that looks like. If you come over to the skills tab, let's say in this example, Tempest Flurry is an attack or a skill that I'm using currently, and let's say that I want this to be on my primary weapon but not on my secondary weapon. Now what I want to do here is if I go to skill options, okay, if you're on gamepad, you'll simply select it and then go down to skill options. You'll see a Roman numeral 1 and then Roman numeral 2, okay? And you also have attack in place if you want to do that. But basically what I'm saying is I want to have Tempest Flurry with just my first and primary weapon, okay? But let's say I'm using lightning and cold. Since this is a lightning skill here, I'm going to use that on my primary weapon. But let's say my backup weapon, the second weapon, is like all about the cold, right? And if you want to do that, you can actually come down to, in this example is Wave of Frost. Again, open up the menu with the X button or A button, then go to skill options and uncheck the first weapon. Uncheck the first weapon, but leave check the second weapon. Okay, so now when you have all this in place, and as soon as you use Wave of Frost or that other skill, guess what happens? The weapon automatically switches because you assigned it. How cool is that? Now check this out. We're going to take this a step further. If you go over to your passive skill tree, look off to the right side, you're going to see weapon set 1 points and then weapon set 2 points. You can allocate certain points to certain parts of the tree, right? So as an example, let's say that I wanted to have cold and lightning. What I can do here is I can assign for weapon set 2 to go a certain route for cold, and then weapon set 1, it'll go to a certain route for lightning. You can split them up depending on the weapon that you're using. You get what I'm saying? So you don't always have to have these same things. Now for gamepad users, if you're trying to figure out like how do you assign the weapon set, like how do you do that, especially with a gamepad? So it says it on the screen actually. If you press and hold the X button or the A button, whatever controller you're using, it's going to look like this. You're greeted to this wheel, and you can use the left analog stick and you can say, okay, I want this node to go to weapon set 2 or weapon set 1. Also, if you don't want to deal with any of that, when you select a node by default, it's going to allocate it to all of your weapons. You don't have to choose. You don't have to go in here and do this every single time. By default, it does go to like all of it. Does that make sense? So you want to come in here, you want to make sure that you go to 1, 2, or just keep it for everything. You know, there's a website that I do want to share with you guys, especially for beginners and new players to POE2. It's called POE2DB or database.tw. I'll put in that comment or put in the description box that link. And when you come here, you're going to have access to a lot of great information in a one-stop shop. You have items, character class, keystones. You have gems, all support gems, skill gems, spirit gems, modifiers, quest, waystones, tools. And this one right here, this is my favorite, is the passive skill tree, interactable skill tree right here. So if you want to plan out your build ahead of time, you can do that just like right here. So let's say for me, example, I'm a monk. So I'm going to go monk and I'm going to ascend to an invoker. And that's going to be the skill tree that I'm using here. And if you want to plan things out, you hover your mouse over here and you start selecting here, increase skill speed. You look at this one here and you attribute there, here, there. You can look at your nodes, gain 5% damage to extra lightning damage, essence of the storm. You get the points. You can kind of map out what you're trying to do. It even has a search function. So if you're looking for power charges, look at power charge. And then it should highlight the power charge right here in red. You see that right there, overflowing power charge right there. Here's one as well. It's called the power within. And then here's one as well called the lust for power. You get the point. You can zoom in and out with the middle mouse scroll. You can move around with the mouse right here. Here's another power charge there, by the way. But that's this is really, really nice. If you're trying to figure out what to do and plan out your build, come here and do this. Now, I don't know if you can actually save your build here. I don't see a save button. If you bookmark the page, it actually keeps your tree. So that's how you would save it. So go ahead and build out your tree, bookmark it, and then boom, it actually saves what you've done. If you want to look at the Ascendancy classes, just come to this website, go to quests, not under character class, but under quests, and then go to Ascendancy classes. And here's the screen here. And let's say you want to go witch, for instance. And here we have the 2 ascendancies. Eventually there'll be a 3rd. And let's say you want to do, I don't know, blood mage as an example. You'll click that. And then here is the blood mage ascendancy nodes. And you quickly just, hover your mouse over each node and you can decide from there, which one you like most. So go ahead and plan out your build that way. Another good function is the gem tab. You have gems, skill gems, support gems, and spirit gems. So an example, I'll click on spirit gems. And then here is a list. You can do a search. You can categorize it by melee, spell, nova. You get the point. And just simply, you hit the clear button or just, delete the search in case you did that. And then here are all you have the red ones, you have the green, you have basically everything you need right here. These are all the spirit gems. Another example is if coming down here, you go to skill gems as well. You can go to skill gems and here's all the skill gems that they added on the website. It's all here. It's got the right logos, right icons. You hover your mouse, you have all the information. This website is actually goated. I'm not even kidding. This website is amazing. So if you're ever stuck on what to do, you're like, I don't know what to use and what do I get later on down the road when I level up, come here first and you'll check out all the skills that you need for skills, support gems, skill gems, spirit gems. It's all right here on one website.